joining live, hello, welcome. You are in for such a special treat today. I have with me here my friend and colleague, Ashlee Berghoff. She is the founder of A Squared Online and also the author of this incredible book, Eureka Results: How Entrepreneurs Can Turn Their Best Ideas into Reality. So I'm gonna let her in a second tell you more about who she is, what she does, but this is really what we're gonna be talking about today is the title of the book. So how entrepreneurs can turn their best ideas into reality. So if you're an entrepreneur with what I like to say, entrepreneurial like rabbit brain, where you're like, oh, this, I wanna do this, I wanna do that. How do I make it happen? This is the talk for you. And Ashlee, I've personally worked with Ashlee and her team about a year ago, and they helped me add some new systems and processes to my business to set it up to scale. So I can personally attest to how incredible her and her team is. So Ashlee, start off, tell us in your words a little bit more who you are, what you do in your business, and I would love to hear what inspired you to write this book.
Yeah. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Krista. I'm just really excited to get to know all of you better too, all of you who are watching this. So I started A Squared back in 2017 and came from a project management operations sort of space in corporate and nonprofit, and thought, maybe I could make a go of it as a freelancer. Maybe there were people in the world who wanted help with running their businesses, right? So that's kind of where I started. And over time became more and more passionate about the power of systems, about helping us rethink what they are and how they work and how we can use them. So it's been kind of a journey of really deepening that over the past few years. And so in our business, we focus on helping entrepreneurs take back their freedom through the power of systems and delegation. So recognizing that so many entrepreneurs started their business for freedom and aren't actually experiencing that. That's the space that we want to help as much as we can. What inspired me to write the book really was this desire to explore. It started out as an exploration of how do we navigate the messy middle of entrepreneurship, especially the transition from being a one-person shop, a freelancer kind of in the beginning, to having a business that can grow beyond you, whether that looked like, changing your model or bringing on a team and kind of becoming a CEO within a business. It's one of the hardest transitions. I think in some ways can feel harder than starting the thing in the first place. And so that's where it started. And through my conversations with people and hearing what was working for them, what wasn't working for them, where they were getting stuck, what they wanted to do, that theme of systems kept coming in, where I could see, okay, there's this piece in the equation of how we make our ideas happen and how we actually bring them into the world that we need to talk about more. And so that's kind of how the book evolved into what it is now, which is really focused on using the power of systems to actually take our best ideas and make them happen instead of leaving them in the realm of ideas.
Love this. Love what you're saying about the messy middle. And what I think is great about your book is that which we're going to talk about today, is we talk about the systems side of things, but also a lot of the mindset changes that go with it. And I don't know, these transitions aren't really like an even start and finish. Like I was about to say, like, oh, I'm on the other side of transitioning to CEO. No, I'm like, this is my first year of having people work for me, but you're always in a new phase, and every phase brings different challenges. And I could go on about this because I think it's just very honest. And that's actually the first thing I wanted to ask you about. And just to pause for a second, I see we have two ladies with us on Zoom, Ashlee and Misty. Hello.
Welcome.
Feel free to comment in the chat as we're talking, the questions. Facebook, I can't tell if we have people on the Facebook.
Yeah.
So Facebook, if you ladies are on there, please do the same in the comments so we know if you're there and we can acknowledge you. So just wanted to acknowledge that. So let's start off. What you say in your book, kind of a bit of the premise here is that there's this missing element, missing element in the stories of successful entrepreneurs. Tell us more about that and what that means.
Yeah. So one of the most fun illustrations I've ever seen of this kind of missing piece was actually my favorite Disney song, which is I'll Make a Man Out of You in Mulan, right? So if you've ever watched the movie, or even if you never have, basically the premise is here's this woman pretending to be a man within the army. Yep. And everything sucks, right? She's bad at all the things. She's about to get kicked out of the army and sent home. And then she has this eureka moment. She's going to do this physical thing that no one else can do, right? So the song is starting with her about to get kicked out. She's doing the thing. And then she does it. She achieves it in one shining moment of glory. And then the montage immediately after that is her beating everyone else. She's like perfect at all of the physical challenges of the entire thing. She's now the best soldier in the army. Boom, boom, right? And it's how we tell stories, right? So often the narrative arc that we are all grown into is this idea of, you start out and then you have this challenge and this deep hole that you're in. Then you have a eureka moment and everything's awesome. After that, you go straight from one to the other. And that's where in the book, where Krista was holding it up, you see kind of this hockey stick growth curve is what you call it, right? Where you're kind of struggling along, hit the eureka moment, and then it just hinges you right up into a new reality, right? And often entrepreneurs tell their stories that way too, because it's the way that we like to tell stories. So they'll be honest about their struggles at the beginning. Wow, I was living in the garage and I was living on ramen and blah, 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 and struggled and tried everything until X, whatever X is, until I joined this program, until I figured out this thing, or until I, had this aha moment. Now everything's great. And they kind of skip everything in between, but there's a whole journey in between. And so a lot of times entrepreneurs, expect the hockey stick and get this instead, which is quick wins. It starts working out, then you hit a dip. Then it's like this iterative process. You might not even feel like you're making any progress. You might hit some walls and things just take forever. And it's easy to think my idea is bad, or be tempted by a new idea that maybe will give us that hockey stick curve because we didn't expect it. And so one of the things I wanted to do was flesh out that piece, so we're not so surprised by it. We're not so discouraged by it. We know it's coming, and that it's at the other side of every good idea, and that we have what we need to navigate it successfully.
I love that you start off the book with that, and it drew me in. Like that, I was like, oh, and I still haven't finished the book yet, I'll be honest, because I'm reading like 4 different books, and I'm planning my wedding. So I definitely skimmed through it. I love it. I'm obsessed. That's with the book, but I see it also from the coaching perspective. I mean, I've experienced this as well. Like you expect that hockey growth, that hockey stick curve, but it's just not the reality. And it's something I also have to remind my clients of as well. I'm like, this is normal. And like you said in the book, it's not that people are intentionally trying to leave information out. I mean, I do it too. You just want to simplify the story. Like you're not saying, well, this week was this, then this, then this. It's just a very long story. So people naturally want to simplify it. But then it creates this myth. And I know you talk about expectations. I would say this very unrealistic high expectation of what success in business should be like, and when we're operating from that, it can bring a lot of mindset stuff up that can sabotage us.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it makes it hard for us to tell the real story because we're afraid that no one else has that story, that we're the only ones that it took that long for, the only ones who struggled in those ways. And so it's tempting to skip everything in the middle.
And this is a good pivot point with this. Tell us, what do you see? And this is kind of a broad question because there's a lot of different challenges, but when it comes to what we're talking about here, entrepreneurs taking their ideas and making them happen and having a business that is successful on their terms, what are some of the biggest challenges that get in the way?
Yeah. So for many of the entrepreneurs that I am talking with, they're visionaries, they're creatives, right? They have ideas all the time. So one of the things we often talk about is shiny object syndrome, which is just starting a new project and then, you're starting to get into that dip. So it's really not feeling as fun as it was at the beginning. New idea. That new idea is super exciting, right? So you just launch off in that one. And so many of the entrepreneurs I was talking to would end up with a wide, variety of started projects that were all kind of open loops in their businesses and in their brains. And there wasn't a whole lot of seeing those things come to fruition. And what can happen over time then is that starts to erode your confidence in yourself, because you're like, well, I just can't finish what I start. I had all these great ideas. None of them are ever, turning into anything. It's my fault. Right. And so it can become a really dangerous mindset spiral of, I'm disorganized. I don't finish things. I'm not, this is just who I am. I'm an ideas person, but I'm not an implementer. Right. So it becomes this kind of stuck spot of lots of new loops opening at all times, but not a whole lot of closures of those other loops. So shiny object syndrome and the discouragement that comes with that can be huge. And another piece that can come with that too is just these endless to-do lists that never give you a chance to win. And so many of the entrepreneurs I talk to are in this place of never feeling accomplished, never feeling like they're moving forward, never feeling like they're winning at their business, because the standard they've set for themselves is so impossibly high, because the standard has now become, I must turn all of these projects into reality now, right? Because I've opened all these loops and now I must close all these loops. And if I can't do that, there's something wrong with me. And so I'll literally sit people down and be like, listen, you are very strong, but that doesn't mean you can carry a horse, right? And so let's human size the expectations a little bit. There's nothing wrong with you that you can't carry a horse. That's just too much. So let's bring the list down. Let's bring this down to a list that you can actually win at. And so a huge part of it is being willing to commit to a much smaller number of things for a period of time, so you give yourself a chance to actually win and see progress.
Absolutely. These are two great things. It's like the starting the projects, not finishing them. And then I wouldn't say this is, and you could have both problems at the same time.
They're kind of related. Yeah.
You're kind of related, or feeling like you have to do all these things now. And the latter, that one was a big one for me. I finally have gotten a bit of much more of a handle on it. Like it still comes up, but really realizing like, not these things can't all get done this week. Like what, right? And I can relate to that. Like, I remember my mom, whenever I would go home and visit, she'd be like, oh, do you still have more work to do? I'd be like, it never ends. Right? That feeling like, oh, there's always something you could be doing for your business, always. But that's where some of that mindset stuff comes in, is recognizing like, okay, just because there's always work that can be done doesn't mean that it has to be done right now.
Yep. Yeah. When we take back, as an entrepreneur, you have the reins of your time. But that's a muscle that we have to learn to develop, right? To be able to say, yeah, this is when I say done, because there is no getting to the bottom of that bucket. That's just not a thing. So,
and then, and I'm sure you see this. I know I did this to myself, and I see it with my coaching clients, where you end up creating another job for yourself instead of a business. And it's like, wait, like I did this for freedom, but you're just like, you're on another hamster wheel. And I know part of your business is helping entrepreneurs get off the hamster wheel. Like that's right on your homepage.
Yeah, it used to be. And the idea is like, you can step off. Like in a lot of ways, as entrepreneurs, it becomes a hamster wheel of our own invention, but it's because it's what we know. It's what we've been trained in, Let's go on a tangent here for a second, because
this again is something I see in my work. I think we see a lot of the same things, is unlearning this 9 to 5. I wouldn't even say 9 to 5. I think it goes back to our education system, the 9 to 5, like unlearning this mindset and realizing like, you don't have to sit at a freaking desk from 8 to 6, 9 to 5, 5 days a week. How do you see that conditioning impact entrepreneurs?
Yeah. I think a huge part of it is a sense of learned helplessness, right? There's part of this idea of, this is what work looks like. And if I'm not working and it's 11 a.m. on a Tuesday, I'm doing something wrong, right? So there's some of that conditioning. But then there's also this idea of someone else is telling me what to do my entire life until now, right? So as a child in school, in college, in your first jobs, you have someone else telling you how to spend your time, and you're not in control for most of your time, right? And then all of a sudden you're an entrepreneur and you sit down and no one is there to tell you anything about how to spend your time. But we still have this idea of helplessness. So we can sometimes like put that on someone else, whether that be a coach or a client or someone else. So the client is saying they need it done by Friday. So I've got to get it done by Friday. Like I have received my orders, right? And it can be really hard to unlearn that, to say, no, this is now your choice, right? So now if you're working on vacation, the person to look at is yourself, right? It's no one else. And you can have the most high maintenance clients in the world, but you can set boundaries with them. It's entirely in your control now. And I saw this in myself so much. I was looking desperately for the first probably year for someone to tell me what to do with my time, right? I was like, just someone come and give me my list and I'll do the list. I will execute on the plan. That is what I do. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't a thing. And I had to learn to accept that there was no silver bullet hiding behind any paywall or anything like that. And that I had control and I could then design a life that worked for me and really make conscious choices about that and lean into that and experience a sense of agency and that sort of thing, instead of feeling like, well, I'm helpless. I'm a victim of all of these inputs and requests from other people,
Yeah, and I also just want to put this out there for anyone else who's watching right now, and even those catching the replay, if you can relate to this at all, like, please feel free to chirp in. And as you're talking about this, I went through the same thing. It's like you all of a sudden you have all that freedom, and it's like it's a weird diet. I don't know if dichotomy is the right word. It's just weird because like you have it, but then you're like operating. You kind of see it is like a computer program. Like, I don't want to make this sound like the Matrix, but I love the movie The Matrix. I think for a few good reasons, because in some ways it is we are influenced by what's around us. The systems, we're gonna talk about systems in a second, but we are influenced by the systems around us. And what would you say, like, and again, I don't think like there was probably like a single eureka moment there, just like we're saying, there's never a single eureka moment, but if you could say maybe like, was there a big mindset shift that happened for you that transitioned you more towards being the CEO you wanted to be?
That's a really good question. It has definitely been a very, very, very iterative process for me. So there've just been all these layers to it. So my first team member that I brought on, it was super early. She was older than me. And so I remember most of my early projects that I gave her, I'd be like, do you want to do this? Does this sound fun? Maybe. And she's like, just tell me what to do. I'll do it. I'm here to support you. Right. So that's where I started in terms of leading other people and those sorts of things. And it became this process of recognizing, A, that wasn't good for me, and B, it wasn't good for her. Right. And starting to see too, that learning to lead in that context was impacting how I was showing up as a leader in my industry, as a leader with my clients, and then even filtering through as a parent, right? Learning how to lead and how to guide, but also how to get the heck out of the way, right? And that's something I'm still constantly like learning and iterating and trying things and failing at them and growing in them. But I think a lot of what I had to learn was where I would always have responsibility and where I needed to let go of responsibility to give someone else a chance to really shine. And so the things that will always be on my own plate include self-management. How do I manage myself? How do I manage my time? How do I manage my priorities? How do I manage my plans? Right? That's something I cannot give to someone else. I can get help from someone else to learn how to build that muscle, but I can't abdicate that role. unless I really want to pay someone to just sit here next to me and tell me what to do all day, which is probably not good for my maturity anyway. And so kind of recognizing, okay, self-management, vision setting, and even kind of big picture marketing for the business. As much as I would like to hand that entire beast off to someone else, that's something I have to learn. So that kind of helped in some ways to say, all right, this is what it looks like to start transforming into the kind of leader I want to be. And then all these other pieces, right? Taking care of our clients, providing this outcome for the clients, all these other things are things I need to start learning to let go of, which is hard. And I'm still on that journey and probably always will be.
I'm right there with you. And it sounds like what you're saying is looking at what you are responsible for and what you can delegate, but also I'm seeing this like externally, but also internally. It's like taking responsibility also for your boundaries, for how much you're working. And I got to share a win with you because as you know, I'm planning my wedding. We're like 35 days out, and I'm so grateful to be at this point in my business because last week I was up in New York doing all these wedding appointments. I really didn't work that much. Like I worked a lot less, and I was like, this is why I have my own business and I have a team. I couldn't have done this because I'm at this phase of my business where I do have team members. Could not have done that without them. But I also, if it was honestly a year ago, I don't think I would have I still would have stressed myself out. And then you have those moments where I was explaining this to my mom, actually. I said, Ma, with business comes great responsibility. But when you there is that responsibility that listen, it's a big responsibility. But when you're able to step into it with the right mindset and confidence, then you actually get that freedom. And it's just I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you, God, because planning this wedding and the business has actually helped me have that flexibility. And I just want to share this because but to be honest with everyone, it took me a while to get to this point. Again, even a year ago, 2 years ago, I would have been a crazy person. I would have been like, no, I
got to do it all.
I can't do it. But as you grow and as you hire people and as you it's the biggest thing is that mindset shift. As you start to be like, okay, things are going to get done. It's going to be okay. Then you're able to have that business that you hear about, the business that you want to have with the freedom.
Yeah. And so it's okay to take time to get there. And it's also okay to design it where you are. Right. So it's kind of this interesting flip because I also talk to a lot of entrepreneurs who are like, oh, when I hit 10K a month or 20K a month, or when I whatever, then the freedom will happen to me. Right. And that just is not the case at all. You can go talk to Elon Musk, who works 100 hours a week. Right. It's not going to happen on its own. It's not an automatic thing. It's not an organic thing. It's something you fight for, and you can fight for it now, wherever you are. Right. But you can give it time to work. It could take a year or 2 years to really start seeing those kinds of outcomes, and it'll be a piece at a time. But you don't have to wait for it to happen to you.
I'm so glad you're saying that. I want to amplify what you just said is because I fell into that. Oh, once I hit this, then what? It's bullshit. I mean, it's just not true. If you tell, like you said, you'll be saying when I make $1 million, then I'll do this. And it's just, then when I make 2 million, 3 million, it will not happen. And I think that for just speaking for myself, my happiness, I actually don't know if I'm going to hit the big revenue goal I set for myself this year, but I don't care because my happiness has skyrocketed. And that's part of the business is why are you doing it? So I think it's great what you're saying and realizing I'm because I am maybe giving myself more freedom now, things might take a little bit longer, but putting it into that perspective. And I know I think I talked to you about microwave culture. I just did a talk about this the other week where it's we get so fixated on right now, but then it's there's usually a big reason why people go into business for themselves. And I find that when you start sacrificing your values for results, you're starting to get into scary territory.
Yeah. And And yeah, John Jantsch, who's an author, one of my favorite quotes is he says that entrepreneurship is one of the greatest self-development programs ever created. Right? And so you're working on yourself, your character,
True.
your soul really, as an entrepreneur. And that is, it's a long game. It's definitely not something you can microwave.
Now we talked about the mindset. Now let's talk about the systems, because I think that's what people want to hear about. So first, I know systems, and I'm going to put myself in this category. When I used to hear system, I would cringe. I'd be like, oh, it's boring, it's rigid. And in your book and through your work, you bust those myths. So tell us, what are systems? Like, break those myths for us. Tell us what they are and why do we need them?
Yeah. So I think our traditional understanding, if we just kind of do a word association with systems, is we think of those big fat like process and procedure manuals that you have in like the most boring bureaucratic companies in the world, right? That's what we think about when we think about systems. So like the DMV is an example of when systems suck and everything sucks, right? Like, why would I do that to my business? I left all of that to leave all of that behind. I have no interest in bringing that with me to where I am today, right? I want to be creative. I want to be inspired. I want to follow my inspiration, and systems come between me and that. So that kind of tends to be where we go. But if we step way back from entrepreneurship and really think about it, systems are just everything that gives shape to the entire world around us. It's how we do things and how we bring things together to make something happen. So when you brush your teeth in the morning, you're using a system. You probably aren't even paying a whole lot of attention to what you're doing. It's just a habit, right? You know what to do, and you do it the same way every day. And you can use all that brain power for something else, because really you don't want to use a lot of your brain power for that, right? So we use systems all the time. The water plumbing systems in your house, that's a system. The root systems for the tree outside is a system, right? The city you live in, the government we all live under, right? All those things are systems. And for good or for ill, systems are the most powerful force that decide what happens in the world, right? So even if we think about systems gone wrong, like the DMV, everyone in the DMV can all wake up in unison and say, I want today to work differently. And it won't, because the system has decided how the DMV will work. So if you want to change the DMV, you change the system, right? And in our lives, coming back as entrepreneurs, it's the same. Every time you do something, you're using a system to do it. So it's not a question of whether you have systems or don't have systems. It's a question of whether the systems in your life are getting you where you want to go. So if the answer is yes, cool, awesome, you're good, right? But if you're not getting where you want to go, you want to step back and look at the systems that are getting you where you are today, right? Whatever that outcome may be. And so if you're like, yeah, I'm just not bringing in enough clients, rather than saying, geez, I just need a better eureka moment, or I need to just work harder, you can kind of step back and say, all right, what are the systems that we're using to get clients right now? Like, how are we doing that? And you might notice like, oh yeah, okay, I'm posting twice a month to my Facebook page and getting 10 views. Yeah, it's probably not going to do it for us. Let's do a different system. Let's try something else. Let's experiment with something else and see if we get a different outcome. But it gives you a lot more ability to kind of see those things that are going on under the radar in your business that are actually deciding what happens. And when you can learn how to use them, design them, shape them for what works best for you, then you can also take some of that weight off of your brain, because you're not reinventing the wheel all the time. You're beginning to have things in place that you can just come back to or just move on from, like those unconscious habits that we have. If you had to every day go figure out where your toothbrush is and then go find your toothpaste because it's under the couch, and then, go through this whole 20-minute process, you probably would do it less, let's be real. But because it's simple, it's automatic, it's a habit, it's routine, we do it and it's important. And so it gets done, right? And your business is the same way.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh. I love the toothpaste analogy, because it's like, yeah, like could you imagine, right? Like brushing your teeth in the morning, like scrambling around, trying to find your toothbrush or toothpaste. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't make sense. And I think for any of us entrepreneurs who have a negative connotation with systems, just remembering this toothbrush example. And we have a couple comments in the Facebook group that I just
Oh,
want to
fun.
bring forth here. So first, Roseanne, I know there's a bit of a delay here, but first,
Mhm.
this is from Roseanne. She said, I love how you're describing entrepreneurship. It sounds like you are saying it's the way you want to show up in the world. Does that
Mhm.
sound right?
Yes. Yes. And that's what's so fun about it. It becomes far more than, oh, I can do this thing and people will pay me this thing. It becomes who you are as a person, what kind of change you want to make in the world, what you want your vocation to be, what kind of person you want to be in that vocation. Um, I was talking to a friend yesterday and she's just now starting to be like, could I do this? Could I do this? And her brain is saying, who do you think you are? Like, absolutely not, and I think we all have that feeling. And it was really interesting talking to her, because it's like, oh, I have my own head trash now. But I've come a long way from where I was when I had that thought. And so when you start looking back over the years that you've been doing this, you see how much you change. And yeah, the
Yes.
kind of person you are when you show up in the world, and learning to see yourself as a leader in the world around you, instead of, just showing up, getting paid, going home.
Absolutely. And Roseanne actually asked another great question here about systems. And I know you do this because I've worked with you about how to create workable systems for different personality types.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah. So I think one of the big potholes that systems nerds like me can fall into is we like systems. They're fun. And so it's easy to be like, oh, well, everyone needs to have a big checklist and this like 5-step process that they go through to do their planning, right? It doesn't work for everyone. It just doesn't. And it shouldn't, because the world would be very boring if it was just people like me in it. And so the big goal of systems is to take you as you are in all of your unique strengths and personality traits, and get you the outcomes that you want for the things that matter most for you in your life, right? And that may not look organized on the outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my office is a disaster 75% of the time. It just is. Because I have decided that that's not somewhere I'm going to invest a whole lot of time. I've made that choice. I am at peace with that choice. I have a toddler. It looks bad. And so someone could go in there and be like, this is what you do for a living. Look at this. This is gross, right? And it just is not, it's a priority I've chosen to have, right? And so a system that works doesn't always look like this perfectly regimented military style life where everything has its like place and you just march through the schedule. For some people, that's exactly what it will look like. For a lot of people, it will look nothing like that. And so you can kind of step back and say, all right, what do I want to see happen here? Do I want more time for creative work? Do I want more time with my family? Do I want to create this thing, this idea that I have in my head? I want to write a book or create an art collection or whatever it is. Okay, what can I do in my life? What do I maybe need to say no to create and protect that space for that thing that I want to make happen, right? And that can look exactly how it should look for your personality. But it definitely has to be something that you adapt for your own way of working, because we're so unique. So what works for me isn't going to be the same as what works for everyone else.
Beautiful. And because I think that's another misconception that people have around systems, is that it's like you do it this way or that way. And it's not, I love how you're describing it, like, because it's true. It has to work for you. If not, it's not going to work. And I see this, even with clients and how they want to build a business. They try doing marketing in a way that's like what they've been told they should do, when there's a gazillion ways you can market your business. It's about picking what works. If it doesn't work for you, it's not going to work for your business. And it sounds like that's what you're saying with systems, and marketing is also a system. So really looking at everything that we're doing, there's a system to it, and thinking about how that system is aligned to who we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So you have permission too, to ignore every system that doesn't fit for you.
Oh, this is
Yeah.
great. So I realized, oh my goodness, you and I could talk to you all day. So starting to wrap up here, because you talked about the mindset, the messy middle, why we need systems, kind of how to think about systems for them to work for you. Anything else, like if you're an entrepreneur, so let's say there's entrepreneurs on here, they're growing their businesses, things are all over the place. What's one thing you maybe want to leave them with in terms of how to think about starting to set up systems to really help them achieve their goals?
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the very kind of straightforward first steps that we always recommend for people, especially if they're in a spot where they're overwhelmed or feel like they're drowning, is to start looking first at time, right? How you're spending your time. And all those other systems matter, right? How does my marketing work? How do I, all of that matters. But first off is let's get your life back. Let's get you a sense of calm in terms of how you show up in your time, right? And one of the first steps to that is taking everything that's in your brain and writing it down, because there's way more in there than you think. So a lot of times when you get it all down in front of you, you're like, oh, no wonder I'm stressed out. I'm literally holding 100 things at once in my head and trying to remember them. So get them all out and then start separating ideas from tasks. So one of the things that really trips entrepreneurs up is every idea, every good idea, or they get on a webinar and someone's like, you should do this, or they, wake up in the middle of the night and they want to do that. It lands straight on their to-do list. And that turns into a huge beast of an impossible to-do list. So what we want to have is a space to honor those ideas and write them down and get them out of your head. That's not your to-do list. So starting to separate those things out. And what that can enable you to do over time is to start committing to a group of major projects for 6 weeks at a time. And every new idea, every, new tactic, new strategy, whatever, lands on your ideas list while you continue to work on those projects for 6 weeks. 6 weeks isn't that long, right? Mm-hmm. So it gives you time a month or so later to then look at that list and say, oh, I'm still so excited about this idea. And then bring that in for your next 6 weeks, or to look at it and say, oh yeah, that sounded super good back then. I don't think I want to do it. And then just not, so you can kind of give the ideas a chance to cool down just a smidge while you focus, but still honor them, still create space to pivot. Most small businesses don't need to do annual planning in some big major way, because your business is going to change so much between now and next July. You can set targets, you can set goals, you can do all those things. Those are good, but you don't need to say, oh yeah, these are the programs. And this is, you're going to have lots of ideas between now and then. So this gives you a chance to move forward for 6 weeks, have plenty of room for new ideas to come in, to pivot, to change, to try new things. But in the meantime, every new idea stays off of your to-do list for a while, so it doesn't get out of hand. And that can help, just that one piece can help you start feeling like, hey, I'm actually winning. Like I'm actually knocking stuff off of this list, because it's not endlessly getting all these new ideas thrown on it.
I love this. And I didn't even realize that I was unconsciously doing that, the ideas versus tasks, because I'm pretty sure I used to lump it all together. And it's the ideas list. It's like, oh, like, and just to give maybe a practical example for people, like tomorrow I'm batching, doing some little video content, and I have my ideas listed here, but the task is on my calendar. Would that be an example of how to kind of use it together? Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And even Roseanne's loving this. She said, fantastic advice, love the ideas versus the task. And she loves the 6 weeks, that it takes so much pressure off, because she said, I think these tasks will last forever instead. And I think that's a great way to kind of, like, we get so into what we're doing to kind of perk back up. And like you said, even see, like, wait, is this going in the direction I wanted to go in? Does this make sense? Because, the reality is that you just said it, business changes so much. And I find, and I don't know, you probably see this too. I find sometimes clients want to create this perfect business plan. And
Yep.
I'm like, it's going to change.
Yeah. You can't know. You can't. I would love so much to be able to just go into a hole somewhere and emerge with the perfect messaging, perfect offer. It's just not how it works. I wish I could say it.
I wish January 1st I have this perfect plan and but it's not the reality. But that's also why we become entrepreneurs, is because a lot of us, we hated that in corporate. So it's like, that's part of being an entrepreneur, and you're not doing anything wrong. Right. If it's like that, which I think that's some of what you're saying there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Like, this is very iterative, very iterative. And so I've had to really learn to get away from this idea of like, oh, that was a failure, to that was an experiment. Okay. What was the data I got from that? And what is my next experiment? Right. So if every experiment you do comes out with the answer that you want, then it's not a good experiment. Right. So we're supposed to have experiments where we're like, yeah, I need to tweak some stuff next time. But then it doesn't become a personal failure, or I'm not cut out for this, or my business isn't any good. It's just, oh yeah, I tried that. This is the information I got from it, and this is what I'm going to do next.
Beautiful. And, Roseanne just asked us another question, which is the perfect pivot point. She said, I love it. Do you help people talk through all of this to create workable systems? So Ashlee, tell us, if people want to work with you or learn more about what you do, how can we get in touch with you? And tell us, how do you work with your clients? Tell us a little bit more about what you offer through your business, and then how we could get in touch with you.
Yeah. So we have kind of one-on-one work that we do more for agencies and people who are in a spot where they're saying, okay, I just need someone to come in for 2 months and renovate all of this. Mm-hmm. But for most of the people that we work with, that's not what they need yet. It's more, how do I think about this? How do I manage my time differently? How do I start using systems in my business in a way that's flexible and that works for me? So we have a group program for that. And we see ourselves as kind of personal trainers for business. So we're not on the side just throwing information out, but we're saying, hey, I want you to do 2 reps on this machine. Okay, awesome. Let's go do 3 reps on this machine. To start building those muscles and start thinking through the systems and clearing as much friction as we can between someone and that experience, and kind of working through the phases of working towards that freedom. As part of that, we do placements and support for people's first team members or first virtual assistants, so they can meet with a small number of really strong candidates, pick someone, and have the support they need to make that relationship strong. Because we see a lot of challenges with bringing on that team member. So those are 2 pieces in that program. It starts at 6 months, but people can stay as long as they want in that program. My website is asquaredonline.com. So that's where you can check me out. And I'm the only Ashlee Berghoff, at least spelled this way. So if you Google me, you can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram under that name. Yeah.
I'm going to post it in the Facebook group, and that way people aren't scrambling. But just to add, like I mentioned in the beginning, I know not everyone was on. I mean, I've personally worked with Ashlee and can attest to what she does. And I referred my best friend to her, who worked with Ashlee and was also thrilled with her results. She's working so many less hours and is just so much happier with her business. So I just want to give that plug, because I just think you're amazing. I love, thank you so much really for today. And I'll also put a link to get this book, because this book, when I talked to Ashlee, maybe we talked a couple months ago, I was like, this is a real book. And listen, anyone who's writing a book is fantastic, but this really is like to me, something that I'm just blown away. It's just a beautiful, beautiful book. And it's like something I don't know. I see, like, I can't wait to see it at the airport one day, like in the best-selling section, because I just think it's phenomenal. So the book, we'll put a link there as well. And I forgot to ask for final questions. I realize we're at 12:45 here, but any final questions, plug them in the Facebook group. And Ashlee, I'm sure you could, if you don't mind, maybe answering them after if there's
More
any
than happy.
follow-up
Yeah,
questions.
absolutely.
So thank you so much for your time, Ashlee, today. Thank you, those of you who joined live, and for those of you catching the replay, feel free to plug your questions in, and we'll get to you after.
Thank you so much, Krista. I really appreciate you.
Awesome. I appreciate you. Thank you, Ashlee. Talk to you soon.
Bye, Krista.
Bye.